welcome back to our podcast about leading women in hospitality. Today we have Niki from Away Resorts joining us. Welcome, Niki.
Thanks, Lucy. Thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to this.
My pleasure. How are you doing today?
Yeah, great. So I was just saying before we started, I'm glad it's Friday, but the sun's shining and everything's looking good for our business at the minute. So we're pretty happy.
Weekend mode on, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Well, in about 4 hours, probably.
Yeah, counting down. Niki, for the people that don't know you already, do you mind just kind of telling us a bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I'm Niki Gregson. I currently work for Away Resorts, which for those of you that haven't heard of us, we're a holiday park company with 27 parks in the UK. Prior to working for Away Resorts, I had a stint at Premier Inn, and then before then I had a long chunk of my career working in car rental. So yeah, that's kind of been my three places that I've worked over 20 years revenue management career.
Amazing, yeah. And how are you finding things at the moment? Obviously, we just spoke about it previously, but kind of busy market at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly been a really interesting few years in the hospitality industry, hasn't it? And I think going through COVID and then the absolute boom as we came out, and then this year probably feels like maybe the most normal year that we've had. But even then, we're seeing some unusual trends. But so far, we're doing well, and we're definitely optimistic for what the rest of the year's got ahead. It's certainly looking forward to the summer peak, which is building nicely. So yeah, we're in a good place.
It's that saying, isn't it? A normal year. I think we've even said it in our office. We're like, we just want a kind of 4 normal years where nothing happens now, and you can just kind of have that steady growth. But it's not been like that for a good few years now, has it really?
No, and I think definitely with Away Resorts, we've had this kind of COVID piece, which has been one curveball that's been thrown at us, but also we've gone through just unbelievable growth as well. So, pre-COVID we had 5 parks, and as I say, we've now got 27. So, we're going through integrations of new parks and learning parks that we don't know and how to revenue manage them. So that's certainly added another level of complexity on top of what has been an interesting couple of years.
Yeah, definitely. And for people that don't know Away Resorts in too much detail, what types of properties do you have? Are they quite complex for you in revenue?
Yeah, they are. So we actually have holiday parks. We do have 3 hotels as well, but the bulk of the business is holiday parks, and most of it is static. And I guess I'll use the word caravan, but the type of stock that we have is not your bog standard caravan. We have some really unique bespoke properties on our parks, and our parks are in beautiful locations across the country. We've got some stunning parks down in Cornwall and the Isle of Wight, and each park behaves very differently. And I think probably what differentiates holiday parks to a lot of other industries within the hospitality is that we have so many different types of accommodation. So we have to revenue manage, not just one room type or one seat type. We might have at a park 20 or 30 different units or grades of accommodation that all need pricing differently. And we also have the ability to increase or decrease our capacity as well. So that makes it very interesting and probably slightly different.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I bet that is very, very complex, but great for you and your team to get involved in, definitely.
Yeah, there's never a dull moment, that's for sure.
Great. And obviously you mentioned that you've been in different industries before. I guess kind of going back a little bit, did you always know that you wanted a career within, I say revenue management, but maybe not so kind of at the beginning, but in hospitality, I guess?
No, I mean, I really fell into it. I actually left university with a biology degree, and I started work as a temp for a car rental company when I first finished university, which was supposed to kind of tide me over for the summer because I didn't want to leave Brighton, which is where I studied, and ended up taking a permanent job there. And then and that's really where I spent the lion's share of the first part of my career. I worked for Alamo National, and then they got bought by Europcar, and I worked there for 16 years, starting as I say, as a temp, just loading data, and I left there as director of revenue management. So, you know, I think it's unusual maybe for people to stay within a company for so long, but again, it went through such change, and I was able to really progress my career all the way through to director level. So it was a great place for me to work for those kind of 18 years. It really started my career and got me off to a great start.
Yeah, definitely. And before that, did you kind of know, was there a different route that you wanted to go down? Kind of what was your dream when you were younger?
Yeah, do you know, it's really funny, isn't it? But I never really knew what I wanted to do. And I kind of, you know, I did a biology degree because it was what I found most interesting at school, but I didn't really want to be a teacher, and I didn't really want to be stuck in a lab. And so, you know, I did very much fall into it. But as soon as I started to get into the revenue management industry, and my gosh, it's changed a lot in the time that I've been in there. I just love the fact that you could make a change one day and come in the next and see almost an immediate response to it. And so as soon as, you know, you started to do that, I knew that that's what I wanted to do. I didn't even know it existed as a career choice when I was at university. I think that's different now, but you know, nobody had really heard of it, had they? It's something that they did in airlines, and that was about it.
Yeah, I was going to say, had you actually heard about it before, or was it kind of just like a complete new world for you?
Absolutely new, and I don't even think I knew that what I was doing was revenue management until I was actually quite far into my career. It didn't really have a name. It was kind of called pricing.
What was it called? Yeah, pricing. Yeah, so interesting, is it? I mean, I guess it's still not kind of really well known for kind of graduates studying or at that stage. I mean, that it's getting better definitely in the universities, but it's still such a kind of a small world that it is crazy to think actually how big it is, but not many people know about it still. But you were doing it and you didn't even realize that you were.
Absolutely. Yes.
And what skills or qualities do you think you've learned over the years to especially get into a leadership position?
I think when I look back at my career, and actually one of the reasons why I love what I do is that it's quite broad. You know, we joke about the fact it used to be called pricing, and yes, you do some pricing, but my gosh, we do touch a lot of areas of the business now, and we really work across multi areas of the business as well. And I love that. I love that you're speaking to operations, you're speaking to marketing, you have to work with finance, and so you have to kind of have a knowledge of so many different areas of the business to be able to do what you do. So I think, sorry, I've lost my train of thought. What was the question? It's losing my mind.
Okay.
Completely went then. So
no, it's okay. We're just talking about kind of the skills and qualities that you think you've learned over the years.
That's right. So I think you have to be able to communicate well. I think you have to, it's not just good enough to be good with numbers, which I think is often, you know, certainly when I'm recruiting, people always think it's kind of finance. And there is a bit of that, but actually it's more than that. You've got to be really commercial. You've got to understand, you know, the action that you take, what the output might be. And like I say, you have to have an understanding of different areas of the business as well. So I think kind of, the ability to communicate clearly, you know, you can't just be into the data. You have to be able to interpret that data and then tell a story to somebody that maybe isn't a data, you know, I don't want to use the word geek, but you have to be able to then interpret that to something that somebody else will be able to listen and understand and take action on as well. So
yeah, definitely. And I guess we've kind of skipped forward a little bit, but for anyone listening who maybe doesn't know what a director of revenue would do you mind giving a bit of an overview of kind of what your responsibilities are and the types of things that you get involved with?
Yeah, so certainly at Web Results I get involved in lots of different areas, but we are obviously responsible for the day-to-day, making sure that our pricing the system is correct. We work across, so both direct, we also work with OTAs, so making sure that we're working with the right OTAs and we've got the right business coming in at the right times. We will work with finance with the forecasting and the budgets, so that's quite a large part of what we do. We'll work with marketing on making sure that we're activating the right marketing campaigns at the right time with the right level of offers. So there's multi parts of that of that role, really. And ultimately, I guess my responsibility is to make sure that my team are very clear on what their expectations are, and that I'm then able to feed up to the people above me what's going on and what's happening with the business, and what kind of state we're in. So I think I kind of sit as that kind of piece in the middle between the people above me, making sure they know what's going on, and the people below me, making sure that we're tackling the right actions to make a good result for us.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned managing the team there, which I'll go on to probably a little bit later as well. But I guess throughout your career then, have there been any particular challenges that you think that you've faced that have potentially stopped you getting to where you are now?
I
Could have
think
stopped, should I say?
Sorry.
So I should have said maybe kind of could have stopped you getting to where you are now.
I think, if I think back to when I started my career, as I said, I started in car rental, and I think it was still quite a male orientated business, and certainly everyone above me was very male, and I would often go into meetings where I'd be the only female, and I think that could stop you. I think that could be quite daunting. And still to this day, often I'll go into meetings, particularly with more seniors, where there's maybe one or two females and a whole sea of males. I mean, I think it's changing, but I think it's very easy to be daunted by that. And I think those situations when you've got to take a deep breath and know that you've earned that place at that table, and you do know what you're talking about, and that you've got to be prepared to put your voice across, and sometimes get your elbows out and make sure that you're being listened to. But I think it is just a case of when you're in that situation, not letting it be daunting, and knowing that you have earned that right to be there, and you're being asked to be in that meeting because people want your contribution and think you've got something to add.
I actually, the other podcast that I recorded recently, the lady mentioned that she felt that women feel that they have to act super confident and show that kind of super strength in everything that they do in this industry to prove that they earn that spot. Do you feel that that's still the case, or can you just be your natural self but still have the capabilities?
I think as I've gone through my career, I've learned more to trust myself, and I think that particularly at the beginning, I felt like I always had to know the answer straight away. And now actually I think there's nothing wrong actually with saying, what, I'm not sure about that, or let me go and check, rather than give an answer that maybe you're not 100% sure of, and probably the people that you're speaking to kind of know that you're probably not 100% sure of. You're far better to kind of just say, look, I don't know off the top of my head, let me just go and find out and come back to you. Obviously make sure that you come back, that's the number one rule. But so I think and I think I understand where she's coming from, that sometimes you feel like you have to put on a persona so that your voice is being heard. And certainly, my natural state is probably one of introvert, it's not extrovert. So again, I think it's building that confidence, and it has built through my career. I wouldn't say that was something that I had when I first started, but I think the more that you put yourself in those situations, the more that confidence builds. And so you don't have to be an alpha male to get your point across. And even I don't think that exists in the same way even across males anymore. It's not really how business gets done in the majority of companies anymore. It's not like that, is it? So I don't think you have to be the loudest person in the room. You have to be able to inspire confidence. And like I say, I think that often sometimes it is having the confidence to say, I don't know the answer to that right now, but let me go and find out.
Yeah, no, 100%. The confidence builds up over time with any role in any industry, doesn't it? So and that's definitely a good bit of advice. Just don't feel the need to have to answer on the spot. You're well entitled to go away and think about an answer. Not everybody knows the answer to everything. And do you think that you've ever encountered, maybe yourself, or ever seen gender bias in the industry?
Sadly, I do think it's there. I don't know if I've personally experienced it. I think I always like to look on the positive side, and so maybe I have, but I'd like to think that I haven't let it stop me, or that I found a way around it or through it. And I'm at a level in my career that I'm very happy with and I'm proud of, and so it hasn't stopped me. But I think it's something that we've got to be watching out for all the time, because it's so important, and we're moving forward and we shouldn't allow ourselves to slip back. And so I think diversity and inclusion it should be such a big part of what we all follow, whatever it is, gender or race or and I think certainly within Away Resorts, it's something that they're very, very conscious of. And I think that's really important. We have to catch ourselves all the time. And when we think that something maybe isn't quite right, we've got to be brave enough to stand up and say, I don't think that's right, and we shouldn't be doing that. And are you conscious that that's how that's coming across? It's really important.
And how do you think that you build that diverse and inclusive revenue team, or just team in general, in kind of your experience or what you've seen?
Yeah, I think that's an interesting one. And I mean, I'm just thinking about my team now, and actually it's probably the most balanced team that I've had, and certainly in terms of gender. We were fairly swung actually towards female, interestingly enough, and now we're just starting to get more males in, and it's not, I don't think that's a conscious thing, it's just naturally happening. And I think when we interview and we recruit, we always pick the best person, and I think if you do that, then you can end up with a fairly balanced team. But again, I believe that a team works best when you have got that diversity within it. So it is important sometimes just to step back and go look at your team and just think, have I got this balance quite right? And just being really mindful when you're recruiting that you've got that you're trying to get a good balance within your team. But you always have to go for the person that's the best on the day, don't you? I think that's important.
Yeah. And it's kind of that balance goes in all different aspects, doesn't it? Even personality wise, if you had personalities that were all striving and all aiming to be the absolute top of the business, then it wouldn't work either. You have to have people that want different things, and that looks in all different areas. Yeah,
for sure. I think it's really important. You can't, like you say, you can't have everybody wanting to be the CEO, can you? You'd never get anything done. And there's a lot to be said for people that are just that, and I don't mean to use the word just, actually, because they're often the kind of the bones of the organisation that come in and just do a really great job. They do what they do and they do it brilliantly, and we need those people, and we should recognise them in the same way as we recognise the superstars that maybe go on to become the next CEO of somewhere. I think we all play a part in making a business successful.
Yeah, definitely. And for the people that are striving to get to the top, what are the different avenues people can go down, or even for yourself, I guess, kind of where can this role go, and kind of what things can people achieve, would you say?
I think, as I said earlier, I think because you do work across different parts of the organisation, that you actually have the opportunity, if you start in revenue management or you start in marketing, you don't have to stay in that lane. So you can start in revenue management, and it's a great way to see lots of different areas of the business. And then you realise that actually, the bit that I really love is when I go and spend a load of time in finance and I really get stuck into the details, budgets and forecasts. Well, you've got a really good basis for a role that comes up there to move over. And the same with marketing. If you decide that maybe that's where your passion lies and you really enjoying working on, what's the next offer and how's it going to work and what's their acquisition plan, and again, you've got a really good basis for being able to go and move into that area as well. So just because you start in revenue management doesn't mean you need to begin and end your career there. I think you have the opportunities because you do work across so many different areas.
Yeah, definitely. It opens up so many avenues. As soon as you're in that business and commercial environment, you can kind of learn more about your skill set as you go on.
Yeah.
And is there anybody throughout your career that has inspired you to get to where you are now, do you think?
Yeah, I've really put some thought into this, because I think, as I've said, it's throughout my career, I've never had a female boss, interestingly enough, which is a shame, isn't it? I've never had a female boss. And even kind of the exec boards that I've worked with and around tend to be mostly males. So my first thought when I was thinking about, who inspires me, I was like, I'm struggling a little bit because I haven't got anyone more senior. But actually, it doesn't have to be someone more senior that inspires you. And I'm constantly inspired by females around me. And in particular, what I'm always just inspired and just completely blown away by is women that have children, because I don't have children. So actually I've been able to put my focus and my effort and really drive forward with my career. But I see these females that are in in really, senior roles, and they've had, 1, 2, 3 children, and they have all that responsibility and the time out for the business, and they're still coming back and just absolutely nailing it with their day-to-day, roles. And I sit there and I just think, I don't know how you're doing that as well. I mean, it's incredible, isn't it?
It really is.
It's amazing. I had one lady who used to work for me, and I remember one day she'd had a baby, and actually she'd come back, and I think she'd only been off about 6 months. And she'd come back, so she had a really quite young baby at home being looked after, and there's the responsibility, and she also had another child, so second child, the responsibility that comes with that. And I remember just sitting there one day just watching her, and she was managing a team, and I was just thinking, you are awesome. How are you doing that? And that inspires me all the time. All the time.
It's a topic that obviously as a woman it gets spoken about so much, kind of managing to have a career and have a family and have children. And I'm the same as you. I don't have children, so it's admirable how you look at somebody and they manage to do everything. And do you think that, and this isn't necessarily specific to hospitality, this is just life, but do you think hospitality, I guess more specifically, is kind of helping women to have those children and putting the right policies in place to make it more manageable?
I think we could do more. I do think we could do more. And and again, I look at women that have come back after having children and what they're able to contribute, and I think there are definitely females out there that aren't able to get to where they want to because they haven't got the support that they need, and the contribution that they could give is worth that extra effort. So I think there is more that can be done, not just through hospitality. It's not that it's hospitality specifically. I think generally across probably most industries, I think it's unusual where you look at a company and go, oh, they've really nailed it. They properly are supporting that. I think, so I think there's more that we could do.
Yeah. And have you heard of any companies that you're like, oh wow, that's actually really impressive that they're doing that? Because I don't think I have.
No, I don't think I have either. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah. Because I mean, we talk about kind of maybe there being more male leaders, and typically probably the most common reason for that would be because that women have to take a long time out of their career. I mean, they don't have to, but typically the women tend to take the most time out of their career, and that the male can kind of overpass them, and it kind of stumps to where they're getting to that point. And it's a shame that there isn't more to help that.
Yeah, I think so. And I think often when females come back after having a baby, they have they have so much to think about that actually they're really good at just coming in head down, knowing that they've got to get through so much, because fundamentally they can't not leave the office at whatever time, and then that it always impresses me. I think actually the other thing that I was thinking about when I when I knew you were going to ask me who inspired me, and interestingly, I mentioned earlier how I'm naturally, I would say, introverted. And so when you first asked me to do this, my first response was, oh God, I don't want to do that. I can't do that. I don't talk about myself. What? And then I have a couple of ladies that work for me, and over the last few months I've been pushing them to either present when one of them doesn't like presenting, or another one has done a very good kind of piece of networking and got in a kind of a leadership forum, and again she didn't really want to do it, and they both just went for it and nailed it. And I thought, I can't be saying to them, you need to push yourself and come out of your comfort zone and then say no to this. So that they inspired me to do this, and I think that's the thing. You can look around all the time and find people that inspire you, and we should look for that, shouldn't we? Who do we look at and think, oh, do you know what, you're just brilliant, what can I do to be a bit more like that? Or what? It
probably happens more than what you even realize. Like on a daily basis, somebody can have a skill or quality that maybe you would aspire to have, and you think, oh wow, I'd love to be like that. But it probably happens a lot more. And
I think so.
I think you also mentioned how kind of you're thinking about senior people that had inspired you, but actually it can be kind of all ages, can't it? Because even people that you work with on a daily basis that are of a junior entry level can inspire you because of their confidence in the industry, just to go and get it, or whatever it may be as well.
Yeah, I think so. And I think it's really important, when there is somebody that's doing something that you do find inspiring, or you just think, how are you doing that? Go and ask them, go and have a conversation, because first of all, how lovely to be that person that someone comes up to you and goes, my God, I find you so inspiring, what brilliant. But also they've probably just got little nuggets of things that they've learned through their career that they can share with you. And you go, oh, actually, that really makes a lot of sense. I can see how that's helped you.
Yeah.
I think we should all do a bit of that.
Definitely. Can you imagine if you always had those thoughts and you actually express them to everybody, because half the time you just think that they know that, but they probably don't even realize. So it'd probably be quite a nice thing to do more often.
Definitely. It's interesting, actually. Those people that I've kind of explained to you that inspired me, I have told them this week that I was like, I'm going to mention that, and that's and I think we definitely, and particularly, I'm a big believer in that women should support women, always have been, and so that's part of that, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And I think I'm probably the same as you in terms of introvert, and I was the same when I first thought about doing a podcast, but I thought, actually, it doesn't matter. Like, we should be able to have a conversation woman on woman and be able to share it with whoever may be listening, and they may be a massive introvert and think, oh gosh, I could never do that. And then one day they may be on it
you can.
It's
yeah, absolutely. You just have to do it, don't you? And then you get to the end of it and you think, what was I worried about?
Yeah, you just overthink it in your mind, and actually you're your own worst enemy in that sense.
Yes.
And Niki, in terms of, I guess, set along the same lines of inspiring, but have you ever had a coach or a mentor, or have you ever done that to anybody?
I don't know if I have specifically. There's certainly people that I rely on and that I would, if there's something that I'm struggling with or I want a different point of view, there are certain people in my life that I would go and have those conversations with. And actually different people at different parts in my career as well, because I think what works when you're at one stage doesn't work when you're another, or for one issue that you've got, you need a different person to speak to. So I would say I've probably got 3 or 4 different people that I would use as sounding boards at different times. And again, I think that's really, really important, right? Because I think, go back to what you were saying, you can really start to get inside your own head and overthink things, and actually often just talking it out with somebody and getting a different point of view on something is really helpful. So not a specific mentor, but for sure there's people that I would use and get that kind of
network.
And definitely really important.
I think it's getting spoken about more, and there's probably people are doing it more officially as well. And I think, like you said, it's just getting another opinion, or sometimes not even needing that opinion and just saying it out loud. I could probably say my worries and go, do you know what, actually I've just answered my own question.
I know what I need to go and do.
Just someone to talk to in the professional environment as well, I guess, because people have it in their personal lives but maybe neglect it in their professional lives as well. But nice that you've got that support network to be able to rely on.
Yeah, for sure.
And I guess we'll end it off with kind of, what advice would you give to any women aspiring to join the hospitality industry, or even people that are in the industry already?
Yeah, I mean, I would say go for it. I think it's such great, it's a great industry to be in. I think particularly where I am now, one of the things that's really lovely is the previous couple of companies I've worked for, it's always been quite a functional product that you kind of just buy it because you need it. Whereas somebody buying a holiday, that's something special, isn't it? And I love that. I worked for a company where the people that purchase the product, a lot of them will have saved hard. They'll have really considered where they're going to go, and they've chosen to come and visit you. And they'll go away with memories that might last them a lifetime. And how wonderful it is to be a part of an industry that can say that that's what we do. So I would definitely encourage anybody that is thinking about stepping into the hospitality industry to go for it. And as I say, if within that they're looking at revenue management, I think it's a great career that can give you many opportunities to get into lots of different parts of the business, or do what I've done and stay in revenue management for all of your career and build through it. And it's just constantly evolving. There's so much exciting stuff, AI and technology that's now being used. So it's completely different to where it was, 5 years, 10 years. It seems to be evolving all the time. So it's a really exciting, I think, area of work to be in.
I think going back, they used to think revenue managers would sit on a computer in a dark room. That's what I hear all the time, don't they? But it's definitely evolved since then. And like you said, there's a lot of exciting things to get involved in the future as well. I guess just as a bit of a glimpse into that, you mentioned IA and technology. Are there any kind of exciting trends you see coming up that people joining the industry could be quite excited about?
I mean, from our side, we've just launched an automated revenue management system. So that's been really exciting for us, and we're very proud of having done that. And if I think back to probably revenue management systems that I have seen before, what we've got now is just streets ahead of that. And the different inputs that are into it, it's not just looking at last year's pace, which is probably what it used to be. We've got weather feeding into it, for example. That's quite exciting for us as the holiday park industry. Weather plays such a big part. UK weather, it's a different kettle of fish, isn't it? Going down to St Ives when the sun's shining as opposed to when it's raining. So really interesting things like that we're starting to pull into our forecast, and then that's helping us get that optimum price out there. So I think just all the time there seems to be new advances within revenue management.
Yeah. Thank you. And then finally, for anyone that's looking to have a career in revenue management, more specifically, are there any particular resources or qualifications or anything like that you'd point them towards if they're like, I just don't even know how I would start in this industry? Do you think there's like a best place for them to start?
Yeah, I mean, if I look at the more recent recruits, it tends to be from I guess often economics backgrounds, business. It tends to be those kind of backgrounds. However, as I said, I had a biology degree, and I've recruited people that have worked in the call centre and then come and worked for me and done a fantastic job. So you can definitely arm yourself with good skills, right? And you can go and get a fantastic degree, and you can go through that route and brilliant. But if you haven't got that, and you already work in the hospitality industry, and you think revenue management is something that you'd like to get into, I don't think there's a barrier to it. I don't think you have to have that. I think you have to show, an element of understanding the business and be commercial, and then just go for it. Go and speak to whoever it is that looks after the revenue management team and ask if you can maybe shadow someone and learn a bit more and show your interest. And you just never know what might happen.
That's kind of the beauty of it, actually, isn't there? There's not a set route that you have to take. People come in from all different angles, and it can be an industry that you fall into but actually then absolutely love, and it's because you've fallen into it that actually it fits all your different skill sets all into one.
Yeah, absolutely.
But thank you so much, Niki. Is there anything you want to add before we wrap the episode up?
No, that's been great. Thank you, Lucy. It's been lovely to talk to you.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing your story and giving your tips and advice along the way. It's been lovely catching up with you, and I'm sure many of the listeners will enjoy listening to this one as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much.